open. Pussy wide open. Let me say this from the jump. Look, shorty, I'm the man. I'm from Harlem, I'm a problem. I don't think you understand. You don't care about my status, this chain in or its carrots. You just care about how I hit it from the back like raspy rabbits. It's okay, don't stop. We can do it how you want. Treat your boss like Dunkin' Donuts. Know what donuts need a dunk. Okay, you cool. This magic trick ain't done. As I slurple on your nurples, girl, this ride has just begun. With my starter shade, sound tough and I'm soaking. Good enough to get hot. I'm hoping. I know I'm hot, cool off 'cause I'm smoking so good.
Hey there, it's your girls, Meta Mars. Yeah, it's your girl, Meta Mars. And this is a meta moment. A bold meta moment. Especially when this ambulance go by. That I decided to have on the fly. Specifically, not because I have anything to talk about or, you know, anything's going on in my life that I want to, hash out. But let's do a body check. Fuck that. We do a body check. Fuck the checks. Because your body is the best outfit you have. So let me show y'all all this way out on game. Like, oh baby, yes, I'm looking a little something thicky. Nothing too crazy because at the end of the day, if I get any bigger, girl, you're gonna be like, what is she doing? Like, what's going on here? And it's not the body shame or anything, but this is me right now. This is all on my ass. Yes. I know. I don't got some thickums back there. Spotlight. Diet and exercise. It does work, good boo. You don't have to go chop yourself up on a table. You could just work out. And of course, the gut comes with that territory. But, it's all me. It's all real. It's all this. And moving on. Just me being fun right now because, the weather's starting to cool down. We're getting into spooky season. And as y'all niggas know, as you knuckles know, spooky season is my season. I am about to be out here having all types of fun in the fall season because that's what I love to do. Like, look at me. I'm getting pale as you tell. I just keep making it. Don't judge me. I jump back into the fall shape as quickly as y'all can see. I'm trying stuff out. It's trial and error. But as I started for what lack of a better word, something that I do, and something that I have learned from a group of entities or people that I used to affiliate with that don't necessarily reside in this area anymore. That is in its own little way, kind of spiritual, but in a level of spirituality that necessarily is not publicized or necessarily pushed because it still has its own little taboo version of itself. People are not necessarily sure how they want to take it in, but it, like I said, with it being the fall equinox and the transitioning between the summer into the fall into the cooling season and stuff like that, I start to do my spiritual walks. Yes, it's something that I typically do because unlike most people who do like shadow work and they do like self-analogy, I typically enjoy the vast transitioning of actually earthing myself and grounding myself within my environment and assessing my energy levels amongst the environment. So I did my first shadow walk yesterday and the moon was looking very beautiful. The wind was subtle, not too harsh. As most people know, before we got to the end of the summer season, we had like some really tremendous wind going on. It was looking crazy on that last day. Like we had like overcasting and a couple of like really dark storm clouds. But as we transition into, I finally completed that transition into, the fall equinox. It is kind of still giving you some form of summer vibes. I wouldn't say summer, but it's kind of like fall. It's not necessarily cold all day, but it's definitely chilly in the morning, and it's definitely have a little tinge of a breeze from the excess off from the this high of the day and stuff like that. So I'm kind of enjoying it. Like I'm really like in my element, though I am to consider technically a spring baby fall gives me the same rises, same rising feelings that, gives us, it helps me ground just as well as it does in the spring, especially coming off of like the coldness of the solitude of the winter months. But, I felt really good. I felt kind of really rejuvenated. I had some thoughts. I even planned out a few meta moments in my head, which I should never do, because most people know, like, me doing that is like guaranteed I'm going to fucking forget it. And I hate that, but it's just, I'm more of on the whim and on the like the culture aspects of like getting everything out there. Pardon me if the camera's moving, because like I said, the breeze is doing its thing, so you might see the shakiness and whatever. It's my shit stationary, so good luck with that. And I wanted to continue, feeling that void of, what's for lack of a better word, of just like soaking up my environment, getting positive energies outsourced, not necessarily directly from people, but from my environment, because as most people aren't necessarily aware, energy shifts come in various different forms, not just from human interaction, but from also how the things you consume, the places that you reside in, and or your mental, emotional, social, spiritual spaces. It's a whole compass of things that I want to further go into depth with, where most people will sit there and they have a specific name for it. They call it like Wicca season, and it's something that it's just transitions, more or less, even though there are different elements to the environment that we all reside in. Some of us, some of them are higher than others. I particularly love the transition from the hot to the cold. I don't understand why, and also vice versa. So when it's hot, predominantly the majority of the time, I kind of get a little bit, I can absorb a lot of good energies and feel like a lot of good vibes. My vitamin D levels definitely does skyrocket. I do love my sun, but I also have the same pull during the winter months, where it tends to like calm me, and I am more or less in a state of zen in the winter months. Like I'm pretty much feel like the bears and the trees. I'm hibernating. I'm literally channeling my environment, the natural environment itself, and not necessarily like people, because the environment is consistent. People are very fickle. So that's kind of like the energies that I'm pushing out there right now. I'm enjoying my little Wicca space, and I'm enjoying my little environment, and just like manifesting different things that I am looking forward to in the coming 2022. Because though it seems like nobody really knows what's coming on, we're trying to get back to normalcy, whatever the hell that means. And I am also trying to reinvent my interactions with humans as well. And I definitely use my environment as a guide for that, even though I will say there has been a few manifestations that I didn't necessarily channel myself. They just occurred because I guess, I like to believe that our environments are signs of how we need to actually be moving, even though we're not necessarily geared towards those specific options, if that makes sense, because shit happens. And one of the specific options is, one of them that occurred was, I have not, for lack of a better word, though I am very spiritual now in my, status as current. Before I became spiritual, I was definitely religious. Some people know this about me, but not many people know that, because it was not something that I publicized or like threw out there. Even though, don't get me wrong, my mom did, because she just thought it was weird, considering the fact that though she is considered in herself, I guess self-ordained Baptist or Christian, whatever that title is, for me to go completely left and not necessarily be atheist, I was, for a greater part of my early on years, I was Mormon, right? Yes, Mormon, Latter-day Saints. And it was something that came upon me in like one of those situations where I didn't really look to be religious. It's just something that I just fell upon, and I just felt a connection with it. And this is how I'm giving the story today about my spirituality and how it manifested from Mormonism into spirituality. not necessarily I have an issue with my Mormonism now. I honestly still love some of the practices that they have taught me. I use a lot of it actually in my spirituality, but not necessarily to a T, if that makes sense. Like, it's not by the book or whatever. So speaking of that, my nephew, he's so hilarious, and I know he kind of meant it as a joke, but I guess he himself didn't understand like that I have affiliation in there. So he goes and stuff like, oh, someone's knocking on the door. And I'm like, okay, did you check who was at the door? He's like, oh no, they said their name was like Ray or something like that. So me, of course, I'm assuming that it's probably someone at the wrong door and they probably need a direction to where they probably need to go, or it was somebody from my other relatives, something like that, and they're just probably looking for them and things like that. So of course I open the door, and of course there's two elders, two Mormon missionaries, more or less. And I'm a little surprised because, of course, normally I look through the people. I normally look through people before I even open the door or do anything. But something just had me like, let me just go answer this door, and I just opened it. So I'm just like, they're at the other door on the other side, and I guess they've been knocking for a while. So they turn around surprised that I opened my door on this side. So we're both having like this, all three of us are having this stunned face of, wow, this is awkward. Like, and of course, they apologize because in their mind they're thinking that, oh God, maybe we're knocked so loud that the other neighbors open their door. So they're like apologizing, like, look, I didn't mean to interrupt what was happening. I was just looking to see the person in this household was open to, the message that they typically do when they're in missionaries, which primarily between a certain age of young adulthood that they go out on missions to preach the Lord of, preach about their religion, more or less. Not necessarily their religion, but their purpose in their religion, more or less, and how they spread their message and cultivate other people into understanding of what they actually do. And it was just interesting because I'm like, damn, like, I did not have this conversation with missionaries, specifically Mormon missionaries, in well over, I would say, 6-7 years. I have not been to primary, or I was too old for primary, but I have not been to the church in a very long time. In fact, I have not, and if I made those, I have not been to an actual sermon of my religion since my son was about 3 years old. He's 11 now, so it's like it's been a while since I've actually participated in the church. So I am what they would consider a non-active member, though I am baptized within the religion. I have not been active in my religion for reasons that I will bring up a little later on. So they're a little bit, kind of taken back, like, oh, I'm apologizing, and, letting you know that it's nothing. I was like, oh, no, it's fine. My nephew and I explained to them as well that he believed that you were knocking on this door, and he of course probably looked and did not recognize you guys, so he just came and got me. So I'm just, just conveying this message. And we started to, like, engage in conversation, which was pretty interesting because like I said, it's been well over, like, 8 years. 9 years, whatever. I'm a little off. I gotta do my math, I ain't good at math. And it was just something that was just particularly interesting because the conversation it felt very familiar. It felt comforting almost, because as much as we engage with people in this day and age, especially with, how the world has come full circle, it's very hard to have a conversation with someone and it not be necessarily about something bad, not necessarily something malicious or something of like a bad connotation overall, but it definitely just brought out this like calming feeling that I haven't felt in years because I have yet to participate in my religion in so long. So it was just weird, but also very calming in its own way because, like I said, it's been years. So when I actually got the time to, relay the fact that I'm already been indoctrinated into the culture and, understand where exactly their mission is and have familiarity with it, they were a little, like astounded almost, like to where it was like, even though we weren't, their purpose was not to engage with me, it's just how things became that was more or less interesting in its own right, that it was fun. It was definitely interesting, and I was happy to just engage with people on that level specifically. That it has nothing to do with anything negative. It's more about enlightening your personal and emotional spirit. And of course, they asked and inquired about whether or not, or why I have not. Why I have not been active in church. I didn't necessarily go into details of it, primarily because at the end of the day, I did take a complete left from what the standard of what they expect from their members in the congregation from before. I'm not necessarily know what's now, because everything is kind of still virtually online, and they haven't necessarily had they did not have communion or in-house service since the whole corona of the situation started with this world. And it was just interesting to see young adults who are still very active in their beliefs, and how it has nothing to do with manipulation, but just more or less just spreading information. And I realized that that's kind of, in a sense, what drew me into the doctrine of Latter-day Saints specifically, because I was looking for people who did not know me or have a biasism, that have their own opinions, their own views, and I can learn from them and actually be able to understand, as opposed to like, well, we don't think the same, and now that makes us enemies, and which is predominantly how the world is, engaging with now. Like, that's literally the vast majority of anybody that you engage with online now is. It's like, oh my God, she's different, she's a weirdo, or he's not like me, or they're not doing this, and yada yada yada. It's a lot of that, and that division, that divisiveness, is what keeping of our world in this whole shambles that it is now. And it was just interesting because they're definitely, and I can see it in their faces, because they're young missionaries, and they said the guy that I talked to, he's from Las Vegas, but he's only been on his mission for 2 months. And in the religion of Latter-day Saints, for the men specifically, you have about 2 years of doing your mission. So he's just roughly just nowhere near fully breaking it in, like what it encompasses, the trial and tribulation it does to your spirit, and dedication that it has to continue to speak your message, and in a place that, for lack of a better word, where Christianity doesn't even have a foot here. Like, there's so many religions that don't even, there is no religion land here, and you have to go into that kind of environment and try to engage with people just to hear you out. If anything, just hear you out, have a conversation with you on their level, and just like, hey, you may not know this, or you may not even reckon or want to be affiliated with this, but this is something that I'm about. And like I said, it was just particularly interesting to have a conversation with them and feel like, it doesn't always have to be because we're different. We can't have a conversation. We can't have constructive dialogue, because that is the root of what keeps us separated in the first place. This is what's causing this diversion within our communities, within our environment. Yet we're supposed to be a melting pot. We're supposed to be unified. We're supposed to be united in our states, in our unions, in our cities, in our towns, where simply just not having the same views of each other could be the catalyst for all types of fucking crazy, unnecessary indoctrinated thinking. And I don't even want to go into that, because like I said, it's weird now I follow my spirituality more than I follow organized religion, but I still felt my connection with having a conversation with people who just wanted to talk about what they are experiencing, what they feel could be the message in the bottle, more or less. Even though I've done that years ago, I just wanted to hear a fresh perspective on it, and it not be about, well, you don't believe what I believe, so it doesn't always have to be that way. And that's just me. Like, I will start to learn to respect the fact that I don't have to be like other people in order to be my message to be effective, or my message to not have purpose or meaning. I don't have to agree with you. You don't have to agree with what I agree with. Hell, we could just have a conversation. And I guess for like to get, continue off of that topic more or less, I can see them, I can't really see their faces more or less because, they're wearing masks, they are also, doing the CDC guideline, because even though they are religious, they aren't stupid. Like, they're wearing their masks, they're doing everything the CDC requires, yet they're still doing what they love, which is preaching about the Lord. So as much as people like to be like, oh, because people are using like religious exemption as an excuse to not do this, and that, that is still a very microscopic portion of people. Like, there are other individuals who understand the purpose of science, and they don't try to let that overside the logic of of what they believe or what science actually is there for, because that would be stupid. Like, it would not be smart, and not everybody's stupid. But I can see it in their eyes, not necessarily underneath their mask, that they were just happy that someone just had a conversation with them in a time where people have completely took belief and thrown it out the window. Like, they don't have time for belief. Everything has to be, well, if you can't prove it, it ain't happening. And where did the magic go in this world that now that's all we have, that's all we're about? Like, and it just makes me, it revived my own spirit, to where I decided, after conversing with them, and I felt kind of re-energized, revived, in a sense. Like, damn, even though some people say that my beliefs are fucking weird, there are weirder things in this world that cannot be explained and has yet to be explained. But why don't we just enjoy it for what it is, as to making it such a bad thing? And this is just my meta moment, and I'm not gonna talk you guys to death, because I'm pretty sure there's a few people like, oh my gosh, you preach to the choir, we understand, yeah, trust me, I've been there too. I ain't want to hear nothing nobody else had to say about nothing. I've been there. It was fun. And then until it wasn't. And then you want to actually have something to believe in. And then it's like, then what you going to do? You will continue to be miserable because you know everything. Like, come on. Where's the fun? And there's no mystery. Like, if there's no mystery, there's no fun. Like, sometimes the fun is the mystery. I don't know. But that's just me. And this is, one of my meta moments of how I engage with my transgressions, I guess, or transition from religion, organized religion, to humble spirituality. And keeping it humble, because it's fun to be different. You should try it sometime. That wild card is there for a reason. Because you just never know. I think we all should try it. And of course, this is a meta moment, and if you think any different, then let me know in your comments. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you disagree. Just tell me which comes across your mind when you engage and you decide to step out of your comfort zone and out of your box and say, hey, fuck that. Let's see what's on the other channel. And of course, we're gonna do another fit check. Yeah, I'm getting fat. Don't look at this. Bye-bye.